Hello and welcome everyone to episode 2 of our second season of DigiTales. And my name is Faizan Syed. I'm the CEO of East River. And today I have a guest who is on the backdrop of one of the biggest names in the advertising industry, Pakistan Advertisers Society के executive director मेरे साथ आज हैं Qamar Abbas साहब. How are you, Qamar?
I'm fine. Hi, Faizan. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. बैकड्रॉप पे मैं अभी आता हूँ एंड हाउ यू मैनेज एवरीथिंग एंड यू डन फॉर द लास्ट 15 years. लेकिन जो मेरा सबसे पहला सवाल है, यू आर ए माइक्रोबायोलॉजिस्ट एंड वायरोलॉजिस्ट हैं जो कराची यूनिवर्सिटी से आपकी मास्टर्स डिग्री है और आप एडवर्टाइजिंग में कैसे पहुंच गए, ये मुझे जरा समझाएं.
As we say, fate, you plan and where you end up. So it was completely. I did my master's in molecular biology and advanced virology. At that time, I was lazy, didn't go abroad. यहाँ पे research होती नहीं थी. And all of a sudden, once I was just thinking what to do. I started working in a pharmaceutical company. उधर मजा आया, because mine was a pure research work. That one was very robotic, formula-driven. And all of a sudden, I see this ad in the Dawn newspaper, or Dawn itself, the newspaper itself. They were looking for marketing executives there. I just randomly applied, and I got the job. And and 20 years gone, and I'm here. So
wow. And the next thing you know, of a microbiologist suddenly is the guy who's bringing the Effies to Pakistan, huh?
True.
Quite the transition, and the Effies have taken on by storm in the industry. They've done really well, and I'm going to allude to this I'm going to jump right into it. The recent ones saw a lot of memes come out कि यार अभी Effies में आप basically किसी को भी, अब मैं कुछ कहूँगा नहीं, आप किसी को भी जरूर ले सकते हैं. इस पे बड़ी memes बनी थी, इस पे बड़ी commentary हुई थी. Tell me a little bit about that. Tell me about the Effie process. What are the Effies? Why are they such a big deal? And why did this jury selection process become so talked about recently?
So the thing is, so when we thought, like, we started the award program 10 years back, or when we thought about it, so we did not want to do awards just for the sake of awards. Every industry body does it. So our intention wasn't that. Our intention, and that's how, I'm driven. That's how all my council members, and they shared my view also. We're all driven. If you want to do things, we want to do if there's some substance in it, and if they bring some value, not doing it just for the sake of it. So our objective to start the award program was to really raise the standard of communication in Pakistan. And we moved away from a conventional structure, which was very much creative driven, to a more holistic driven campaign evaluation, where you not only see the creatives, but result is a very important part. Because very honestly, what we believe is that creative is very important, but you do advertising or marketing, it's not a form of, it is a form of art, but basically it's not just creating art. So result is a very important part of it. So we, with that thought process, we brought this particular structure in place. Why Effie is a big deal.
And this, when you talk about the awards that you started, those were the PASS awards that you started about 10 years ago. And then the PASS awards transition ho gaye Effies mein.
Bilkul. So that's how it took place. But even when we started PASS Awards, we started talking to Effies, and that's the structure that we adapted. Obviously, we tweaked. We introduced a lot of categories. Our scoring scale mechanism was a little bit different. Was much more, looking at how our industry is. So essentially, but the structure was the same. So now with the Effies, PASS Awards we did successfully for 8 years. Initially, we had a lot of, people were not used to the system. but eventually they got used to it.
And this is the system of scoring or selection?
Yeah, so it's more like scoring, So when we evaluate a campaign, we not only look at the creatives, we start with what was this challenge, and in that backdrop, what were the objectives that were set. After the objectives, what was the big idea, how the idea was executed, which also includes your creative and media execution, and finally the results part. So it's a holistic evaluation of your marketing effort, right? This was very unique to Pakistan, and this is what we wanted to promote.
It's very thorough, also, I must say, compared to some of the other award shows that are out there in Pakistan. And that you're specifically going in with 5 of the most important parts. In fact, these are the critical parts of every campaign.
True.
Okay, aapka objective kya hai, results kya, and everything in between.
True. So Effie's came in naturally with our objectives. Bringing in Effie, and some people also ask, PAS Awards itna successfully ho raha tha, why Effie's? What's the big deal? As you also asked me. So structure hamara same tha. Effie say one clear advantage that we get is our talent, the work that we do, it gets internationally recognized, right? So I'm sure, I've seen participated in a lot of international awards. I've seen a lot of campaigns winning, and a lot of campaigns which were better. Like, for example, I'll give you one reference. It's a Coke studio. And everyone knows that Pakistan ka Coke studio is Coke ki world mein is the best.
World renowned, exactly.
India mein Coke studio ran, but it flopped. There was this one award show I was attending, and India ka Coke studio won the award on what a brilliant strategic idea and the execution and how it leveraged the music platform. And I thought, because Pakistan ne entry udhar nahi bheji thi, so that not get recognized. So we do, and there are hardly any agencies that participate internationally. I think Effie gives us that exposure, not only to our industry, our work, our people, but also the country itself. So हमारे लिए वो एक बहुत बड़ा objective था, and we've seen over a period of years. Like, it's been 3 years, and we've been the way we have executed Effie. The Effie worldwide is extremely happy, and I don't know if you know or not, this is the first time in 50 years Effie formed a global partner council. So there are 55 programs internationally, FEK, and they invited 12 countries to be part of the first global council, and Pakistan is one of them. They invited us. So it was a kind of acknowledgement of the work that we did, the level of work that we do. And I think this is what I've seen. I think overall industry, maybe acceptance, yes, they can. Obviously, I'm sure there are views. जैसे आपने कहा कि jury इतनी क्यों लेते हैं, and I'll come to that also. But I personally feel, and this is my view, and I can be completely wrong, but I personally feel लोगों को overall credibility पे issue नहीं है. Yes, लोगों को इस पे issue हो सकता है, लोगों को ये issue हो सकता है कि ये jury member क्यों लिया, इतने क्यों लिए, but overall I feel credibility पे इतना issue नहीं है.
How have you maintained that credibility का जो एक standard है, वो बहुत बड़ा मुश्किल होता है उसको बरकरार रखना. What is your, let's say, how did you pull that off?
So I think over a period of years, 10 years, they established that credibility. Okay, people saw that ऐसा नहीं है कि people who are involved with PAS, who are on the council perhaps, only they are winning awards. In the past, we've seen people who are not members of PAS won the awards over companies who were part of PAS, right? So I think over a period of years, and then I think participating in the process. So I'll give you an example. Like I always quote, there was this one gentleman, CEO of an agency, never believed in PAS Awards. मुझे 1-2 साल उनको convince करने में लगे. एक दिन I told him, why don't you come and be part of the jury? Why don't you be part of the jury? And he came and he saw our process. And Faizan, let me tell you, it's been like now 7 to 8 years. He is one of the biggest and strongest advocate of our award program. He has seen it. There are people who have participated in the jury they've told me that, I came with the intention to pick up flaws in your process. And in 45 minutes and 1 hour of that session, my whole section has changed.
Wow.
I also see, so selecting a jury. So why do we have so many members? The reason is that the form, if you see, it's a very elaborate form. Yeah, it's not just a one pager where you just put your creatives, you just write your thing so it's a very, very, you're talking about your strategy, your idea, your insight, your target audience, you're talking about the landscape, whatever the challenges, and then coming on to the execution part and the results part. So it's a very elaborate one. So what we do is that we have a specific number. So say, for example, in every room, we have a specific number of jury panel. So say our ideal number is 10 in a room. Now those 10 has to be a balanced representation. We see the number of entries. हम हर panel को एक दिन में 18 से ज़्यादा entries नहीं देते हैं. हमको 2 दिन में wind up करना होता है. So depending on the number of entries, we have number of groups. Now depending on the number of groups, we have number of juries. So say essentially this year we had 8 groups. So round 1 में about 50 local juries, right?
Now, so hold on, let me understand this correctly. So let me take it back to submissions and then break it down. Is it entirely dependent on submissions that you get? That's where it begins, right?
Yes. Number of submissions you get.
Number of submissions. So let's say, and this year you got how many submissions for evaluation?
Around 375 submissions.
Wow, 375 submissions are then broken down into groups.
Right. So say, for example, for ease, like you make 100 submissions, right?
Right.
अब हर group को हम per day समझें 20 से ज़्यादा submissions नहीं दे सकते.
ठीक है. So basically, तो 100 को complete करने के लिए then 5 groups होंगे that will go over the 20 submissions. Got it. And those 5 groups will then have a representative sample of agency people, brand managers, academics, research, and what else would you put in there? That's about it.
And all these, basically from the marketing average. So say 5 groups के लिए हमको on an average 50 jurors चाहिए. Every room में there are 10. Now the reason having 10 people is so 10 का number ये होता है कि at any given point in time, especially people from the agency, they're recusing themselves. So people, for example, if you're from East River, you will not judge the brands that you work on and your competition. So if you see a campaign, you will recuse yourself. So at any given point in time, at least 2 लोग recuse कर रहे होते हैं. तो हमारे वो जो 10 का जो number है, वो गिर के 8 पे आ जाता है हमारा.
अच्छा, सही है, ठीक है.
हमारा बेंचमार्क क्या होता है कि हर कैंपेन को इवैल्यूएट करने के लिए मिनिमम स्कोर हमारा 7 तो होना ही चाहिए.
7 लोगों का, यानी कि 7 लोग होने चाहिए.
Ideally 9 होना चाहिए. Minimum 7 होना चाहिए. The reason being is कि 7 will also kind of balance any kind of biases that may be in that group.
सही है.
So हो सकता है वो थोड़ा सा न्यूट्रल हो जाए.
7 tiebreaker भी है, 3 इधर और 1 जो है tiebreaker.
Say for example, if you're there and say you're biased against or for a certain campaign, you score it extremely high, and your group will kind of balance if they're neutral.
Correct.
And I will immediately pick your scores.
So that's how you'll identify any biases that are within the scoring.
Yes.
So outliers के तौर पे नजर आ जाते हैं वो.
बिल्कुल. So generally process ये होता है हमारा कि you have 7 to 9 judges. उसमें से to see how the balance the group is, you take out the highest and the lowest and see how the rankings are. अगर जितना balanced group होगा उतना आपका deviation कम होगा. So there's a whole science to it in terms of the number of jurors, and after the jury when we do the score review, there's a whole science of it.
Just out of curiosity, are the scores then taken on a basic just statistics, mean, median, mode model, or do you say that if it's an academic, inki weightage zyada hai? Is it a weightage based system? Is it linear or is it weight based?
No, it's not weight based. So everyone has equal weight.
Has equal weight. Got it. So, but you will look at the deviations, the high score and the low score, and say, "यार अच्छा इनको side पे देख हटा के, let's see what the medium."
Yes. Then to an extent, फिर हम ये भी देखते हैं कि अच्छा हर juror का score पहले तो हम normal ranking कर लेते हैं, then we exclude the highest and the lowest and see what the deviations are. Then we also exclude individual scores and see what the deviations are. So we can easily pick up any outliers easily through the scores. और फिर हमको पैटर्न पता चल जाता है, अच्छा फैजान का पैटर्न क्या आ रहा है सारी स्कोरिंग में, ग्रुप
अच्छा फिर आप इंडिविजुअल्स को भी फिर देख सकते हैं कि ठीक है इनका स्कोरिंग बिहेवियर क्या है, करेक्ट, कहीं आउटलायर्स तो नहीं क्रिएट किए हैं, और हैव दे बीन कंसिस्टेंट थ्रू आउट.
बिल्कुल.
And will that determine if they're invited again next year? The laugh says yes. The laugh says yes.
So and by the way, this is just the first round. Achha, by the way, one important thing that we do in the first round, so we do not give the entire category to one group. It's a more like a kind of a horizontal evaluation. So a category will be split between multiple groups.
अच्छा, so got it. So 100 submissions में let's say beverage के 4 हैं, telco के 5 हैं, confectionery के कुछ और हैं, packaged goods के कुछ और. So you'll split. So each group will get to see, let's say, a variety, right?
Right. So they technically, the first round, which is the shortlisting round, where you do not compare one entry against the other, right? You do a vertical evaluation that whether this entry is worthy to be shortlisted or not. So technically, you do not know कि एक category में कितने आ रहे हैं. You automatically you will not compare, right? In round 2, which is the final round, all the shortlisted ones, then they compete with each other in a category. So then a particular group will be given one category. They look at all the campaigns in that category, and then say कि अच्छा ठीक है gold मतलब scoring क्या करनी चाहिए.
अच्छा in second round you basically say कि food is together, telcos are together, beverages together, and so on.
And by the way, the jury members, they themselves don't know which campaign is winning, because the scoring is done after the discussion, after they read the material, review the show reel, they discuss, and then they score individually and confidentially. So they don't know how much each of them have scored.
I hope you guys have a really good menu of a buffet when you're doing this, because the jurors seem to be doing a lot of work.
I'm telling you, it's a whole day.
You've listed a lot of work for jurors.
Yeah, so it's a whole day process. मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ, when we say that we don't give more than 18 to 20 entries, I'm telling you, you cannot evaluate more than 18 entries. You're completely brain drained towards the end of the day. So yeah, we keep them happy. We give them good food. We give them running tea and coffee with all the delights. Everything. Yeah,
it was around plagiarism.
Yeah.
Oftentimes there's so much content created in the world, right? It's difficult to identify कि यार ये idea कहीं और का तो नहीं है, या ये let's say copy कहीं और की तो नहीं है, या ये पूरा ad ही आपने छाप दिया. How do you regulate for that कि यार ये कोई plagiarized content को हम avoid नहीं कर रहे, पता चला यही content किसी और market में जीत चुका है for a different sector.
Right. So very honestly, we don't have any mechanism to check the creatives of all the submissions that we get, right? But in the past, what has happened is that people bring it, they write to us. Say, for example, when we announce the shortlist entries or the finalists, we have in the past received emails, and people have come up and notified that this particular ad is plagiarized, or and they reference it also.
Mm-hmm.
We keep their complaint completely anonymous. We do not.
Mm-hmm.
But how we tackle it is, once we receive these kind of complaints, we set up a panel of independent jurors with the jury chair, and we put the complaint. We table the complaint. We show what the ad in question, and the reference ad, and then the panel discusses, and then we see whether it was plagiarized, whether we can consider it as an inspiration, and and then we take a decision.
What's the difference? You just mentioned two words. I want to hold you there. Plagiarized versus inspiration. What's the fine line that separates the two?
So in the past, what we've seen is like hardcore plagiarism would be frame to frame copy, and we've seen that, and we have taken off those campaigns from our list of announcements. Inspiration would be, okay, there are similarities, but there are major differences in terms of execution, in terms of concept, also in terms of idea, and obviously brand fit. So obviously there's a difference. You can see, okay, fine, this is inspired, but obviously this is not 100% copied. They've tweaked it completely. They've changed the big idea, and so on and so forth. So those kind of differences that we've seen in the past, that company that are exact copy of foreign ads. So then we do not award them, and we take them off of the list. Also, we go one step beyond, and we write to the brand team and the agency, whoever the contact person is, and tell them this is what has happened, and this is what the decision is of the panel. This is the reference ad we're attaching. So and during this process, we also before the panel sits, we also write to the brand team and the agency team and tell them to please share their point of view. So we do ask them for their point of view. So when we're evaluating, we also consider what was their thought process. Yes, you take it seriously.
So there's a structure in place. There's a focus on plagiarism and so on. So one other thing that came to mind, the plagiarism piece is entirely dependent on someone submitting in a complaint, correct?
Yes.
So could there be an instance where, let's say, पूरी jury के panel के through selection भी हो गई, award भी हो गया, एक ऐसा campaign जो कहीं से, let's say, copied था, और फिर बाद में पता चले, तो अगर ऐसा होता है, then what happens there? Do you retract the award? What works?
So अभी तक we haven't faced that kind of situation, but our entry kit, if you see, it says clearly that even at a stage when the award is given, and if we find it to be plagiarized, the Effie Pakistan will be authorized to take your award back.
Okay.
Obviously, that is one situation where we would not like to be in.
Right.
That's why we've stated it very clearly from, in our entry kit, that this is what we can do.
And the other question that comes up is, as you're thinking of, sort of the process of selection, right, of a winner, 85% of advertisers are represented in PAS.
Right.
Correct?
Right.
And so PAS does a lot of work based on funding from these advertisers.
Yes.
In fact, PAS operates based on the funding from the advertisers. Right. A lot of the white papers that you have written, and you've done a ton of research, and there's a lot of material available on your website. It's not just the FEs that you guys do. And all of this is funded by the advertisers. Wouldn't that mean that they have some influence in the outcome? How is that influence regulated, separated, let's say, walled out? Because that's obviously a question that people, maybe the small brand thinks, yeah, देखो बड़े brand support कर रहे हैं तभी वो जीत जाते हैं हमेशा. हम अगर बड़े होते तो हम भी जीत रहे होते. मतलब एक mindset होता है. So what's the answer to that?
Yeah. So I think the very system where all the advertisers, all the competitors are on one table, that in itself ensures that we are not biased. So say, for example, if you see my member base, so if Tapal is there, then Supreme is there. Lifebuoy is there, then Dettol and Safeguard, they are there. So very honestly, we cannot side with anyone. So this is, I think, the best way of keeping our mechanism very neutral. Mm-hmm. The structure, the structure of the society in itself ensures that we do not side with anyone, because they are equal members. They are both on the council, perhaps, or they are part of the member body. And if you see in the past, I remember, I think, a couple of years back, 6-7 years back, Mini Miners, they won brand of the year, campaign of the year, I'm sorry, against all the multinationals, against all the big brands. Mm-hmm. They're not our members, very small brand, very honestly, not mainstream advertisers at all. But the concept, the idea was so strong, the execution was so brilliant that they did win. So I think over a period of years, I think we've proved that credibility, that it's not just our members and also not just big banks. So, interestingly, in the first 1 or 2 years, I used to hear this when we used to go out and pitch to different companies. We used to hear, these awards and these kind of awards are for bigger brands, likes of
Correct.
Unity, Coke, and Pepsi, and we don't have the chance. But what I've seen over a period of years, this mindset has changed, and it is very heartening. But it is very encouraging to see that if you see our current shortlist, companies like Amredi Steels, Mughal Steels, they've also have come up and are one of the finalists.
Mhm.
So I think in a period of years, this mindset has changed, and I think people overall have believed in the credibility of the system.
And I think that is the crux of everything is credibility, and that's what you've established. You've built a system. There's a process behind it, and I think everyone sort of rallies around it and says, "कि नहीं यार ये ठीक है." We believe them. Therefore, it has worked so well. I'm going to shift gears and go towards a little bit on the advertising side. We're seeing, obviously, given the situation globally, there's a shift towards advertising. There's a shift towards consumption, either whether it's content consumption, whether it's shopping, and all towards digital, right? And this shift is probably not going to reverse. In fact, it's going to continue increasing, exponentially over the next couple of years. The question that arises is: do you think brand managers are ready for this shift? Do you think that they have the technical skill and know-how to understand how to design, develop digital campaigns to take advantage of digital, holistically at this point in time?
So very honestly, whether they're ready or not, the brand managers or the advertising people, they have to shift gears. So there is no other option, very honestly, at this point in time. Now, are they prepared? Are they geared towards it or not? So I think still our industry has a very basic understanding of what digital is. Over a period of years, we've been we used to have this platform called Ticket, and we always used to say at that time that digital is not just social media; it's beyond that. Now with programmatic, with AI, with all those kind of data analytics tools, everything coming in, obviously it has in terms of technical skills, it has developed, and we need to catch up. So yes, in terms of whether we're prepared or not, so I think there is very basic level of understanding. We need to do a lot more. I think one thing that we also need to do is, that is one thing that as an industry body, I think we should strive for, is also now start interacting with universities and building that kind of knowledge base. So the people, the younger the students coming in and stepping into the practical life, they're prepared. They are perhaps more prepared because they're younger, they're more tuned into the digital.
It's their way of life.
For them, yes, it is. So, but definitely we have to scale our skill sets.
Globally, as if you look at marketing associations globally, there's an American Marketing Association. Do they take on this training and development responsibility for the industry? Let's say whether it's the US one, whether the ones in Europe, and if so, is that responsibility something that PAS is planning to take on, should be taking on? How are you thinking about that?
Yeah. So yes, internationally, if you see similar bodies, so they do have training programs. PAS was the first one, I think, in 2006 or 7. We started doing these training workshops. At that time, so I think we were the first one to do specifically trainings on brand management, media management, communication, marketing, and all that stuff. So we started. So the challenge that we face is we have budgetary constraints as far as the companies are concerned. Agencies hardly invest in trainings. There are few companies, even in the brand side, there are few companies. So multinationals, they have a very sorted out program, a learning program, from coming down from the region or from the global. offices, that's fine, but local, I think. So we have those kind of challenges. So we've been trying to do that, but very honestly, I think we need to scale up, especially now in the area of digital. So now, recently, what we did last year in taking advantage of COVID, so we're also affiliated with WFA, which is World Federation of Advertisers. So they started doing these webinars for their national associations. So we approached them and we said, you're doing these webinars. They're obviously, so can we extend these webinars to our members also? And I think they were kind enough and they said, yes, why not? It's free of cost. So then we partnered with them. And last year, I think we did almost 36 webinars.
Wow, okay.
Out of them, I think almost 30 were with international trainers.
And these are all open to your member companies?
Completely open, free of
cost. Which means that it's open to all the employees of the member companies.
Right, true. So we do those kind of things, but I think obviously there's more need.
Right.
We've also been trying to set up a certification program, but I think that's one area that we want to look more, aggressively. That is one area, yeah.
So as budding aspirants entering marketing, out of college or switching careers out of microbiology or molecular biology, like yourself, are thinking about this industry, the one question that always comes up is, should I go to an agency or should I go to the brand? And should I go to the brand first if I ultimately want to do both, or should I go to the agency first? What's your view on this?
Yeah.
What's the right answer?
So, generally everyone wants to go on the brand side. Yeah. Because I think
like giving instructions.
Yeah. But very honestly, I think there are pros and cons. So if you work for a brand, you're just working for perhaps one brand, or say if you're working for 10 brands, perhaps if you're in that company, so you have an opportunity
like a house of brands with multiple, let's say, target audiences.
But then even if you're working for a single brand, which generally is the case, so you're not only handling the brand communication and all that stuff, brand building, but you're also a business manager. So obviously there is a different kind of exposure working for a brand. If you're working for an agency, you get the opportunity to work on multiple brands across various industry. So very honestly, it depends. I personally feel a combination would be great if you want to work on marketing and advertising side and all that stuff. So I think the combination, you should work for an agency, you should work on the brand side also, so you get a more, your grooming is more holistic. But at the end of the day, I would suggest, my thing is where your heart is. So you should go where your heart is, whether it's on the brand side, whether it's on the agency side. I personally feel if you are passionate and if you're sincere, you will excel equally even on the agency side. Generally, there's a perception that you get paid more on the brand side, but we've seen people who have flourished, if not within an agency, starting their own agency, and now there's this culture of startups. Also get international exposures because with all the international affiliates, there is growth there as well. So at the end of the day,
what do you think is the key difference between, let's say, the brand side and the agency side, like the main difference in terms of training or mindset?
So I think in terms of training, and again, depending on which company you're working for, I think you get more structured in terms of your thought thinking on the brand side. It structures you quite well, but obviously you can argue whether you believe in that structuring or not, right? That regimented structuring or not. On the agency side, you get more leeway perhaps because there are different brands, different clients, different kind of companies you're working for, all sorts of people. So you get there more liberty, more perhaps you can do more of your own stuff. If one thing is boring, the other might excite you. On the brand side, obviously you're working on a single brand, but there you get more exposure in terms of business. they're not only looking after the marketing and the brand side, but you're also looking at the other marketing aspects where the pricing, packaging, and the channels and distribution part comes into play. There obviously a lot of opportunities. So I think very honestly, it's like these are the differences, but it's personal preference. I personally feel that one should work. If you're purely working on the marketing side, you should work on the sides, and then you decide where your heart lies.
15 years now at PAS, huh?
God.
15 years is a long time to do something. What keeps you in this role?
Oh God, very cliched, reply to this. Very honestly, working for not-for-profit companies or public sector, for example, is like what drives me. So I think so you get this personal fulfillment and satisfaction when even whether it's a small contribution that you do. So you get an opportunity to really contribute, and that's I think what PAS has given me, an opportunity to do things, to take initiatives, and really contribute positively towards the industry. I think that's very honestly that's what drives me purely.
And I think it's a great initiative because getting our content recognized, our campaigns recognized in the global fraternity, even within the local fraternity, recognizing talent, rewarding people, and then sort of putting them on the stage. I think that's very important. And I think that not all industries do that as well. I think this is a very structured approach, the way you explained it. And I think that power to you for being able to do this for 15 years and, wish you 15 more. But before I close the interview, I have the most important question to ask you. What was your favorite campaign of last year?
Oh God, What was your campaign
of the year? Forget who's going to win the Effie or whatever.
But I can't say that. But before answering this,
and it doesn't have to be in Pakistan. You could just pick anything that came to your mind.
No, so I'll pick up. So there are a few campaigns that I really liked, and I've always been a great advocate of efforts that have some greater purpose behind it. One thing that really stood out for me last year was say Lifebuoy campaign. So when they were encouraging people to wash their hands, and मेरे ख्याल से campaign का नाम भी शायद हाथों की हिफाजत था, ऐसे ही कुछ था. And obviously during pandemic, every company was doing it. I think one extra thing that they did, a lot of companies were doing it. Right, one extra thing that they did, it went beyond their brand. So they, in their campaign, they said कि आप सिर्फ Lifebuoy से ही भले मत धोएं. और मेरे ख्याल से, and if I remember it correctly, I think they also named the brand. So आप Dettol से धो लें और Safeguard से धो लें, आप किसी और soap से धो लें, लेकिन धोएं जरूर. I think that was something that was a step up, where the company showed कि नहीं, there's a greater cause than my brand, which we need to encourage and promote. And I think that was a very good gesture that I personally like. And then there are other ads. I think I liked Telenor ki ek thi, birth registration. So handling the issues that we have and integrating your platform and your brand, I think that really creates a value. That builds your brand equity and brand loyalty, I personally feel. And I think we should be more going towards, and now we have seen that. We have seen companies going more towards purpose-driven, and more social-driven communication, rather than just having business. You should have business objectives, which is perfectly fine. Of course, you should.
But you also have to win the hearts and souls of people.
Yeah. And going a step beyond.
Going a step beyond.
If you see internationally, very honestly, there's a debate going on whether people do not care about brands, whether they do not. So the value of advertising and marketing is really actually going down. So, we need to save that. So I think this is one way of doing it. So,
very well put. I think I remember that campaign. I think it was one of the campaigns that really stood out for me as well. I thought they went across boundaries and reached out to the population at a time when the population needed to hear that. It's no longer about the brand, it's about doing what's necessary at this point in time. Great. Thanks a lot, Qamar. Really enjoyed having you on the show. 15 years had passed is a long time. Wishing you 15 more years and a lot of success. I appreciate you taking the time to explain methodically how the FEs work, how PAS works, and all the contributions it's made to the marketing fraternity in Pakistan. Wish you all the best, and thanks for joining in.
Thanks a lot, Faizan. It was great to be on your show. I think it's a great initiative, and you should continue with it.
Thank you, Qamar. Thank you. Look forward to having you back here again soon.
Same here.
Take care. All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Bye-bye. See you next time.